The chains of submission. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, transmitted across every frequency humanity had ever used. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Luna Station, watching the holographic display as alien symbols transformed into readable text. The translation software worked overtime, but the meaning was crystal clear. By order of the Galactic Consortium, the species known as humans will submit to immediate integration into the galactic workforce. Resistance will result in planetary sterilization. You have 72 hours to comply. Sarah's jaw tightened as she read the terms. 47 human colonies across 12 star systems were to be occupied immediately. Every human between the ages of 16 and 60 would be relocated to designated labor camps. Children under 16 would be sent to re-education facilities to learn proper galactic citizenship. Adults over 60 would be processed for optimal resource allocation. The room fell silent except for the steady hum of life support systems. Around her, officers stared at screens displaying the same message broadcast to Earth, Mars, Europa, and every human settlement in known space. Some faces showed anger, others fear, but Sarah felt something else entirely. A cold, calculating fury that settled in her chest like ice. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Torres spoke from his station, voice barely steady. "We're receiving confirmation signals from all our colonies. The alien fleets are already in position. They're not waiting for our response." Through the viewport, Sarah could see them. The Zephyrian dreadnoughts hung in space like metallic thunderclouds, their hulls shimmering with energy shields that made them nearly invulnerable to human weapons. Behind them, transport vessels the size of cities waited to carry away Earth's children. The Zephyrians led the consortium, a collection of 12 alien species that had dominated this section of the galaxy for over 2,000 years. To them, humans were nothing more than another primitive species to be cataloged, processed, and put to work. They had conquered 43 civilizations before Earth, and not one had ever successfully resisted. Dr. Marcus Webb entered the command center, his usually immaculate lab coat wrinkled from 3 days without sleep. As Earth's leading xenobiologist and one of the few people who had studied captured alien technology, his presence meant only one thing. The secret research had reached a critical point. "Admiral," he said quietly, approaching their station, "we need to talk. Privately." They moved to Sarah's office, a cramped space overlooking the lunar surface. Through reinforced glass, they could see alien scout ships patrolling between Earth and Moon, their sleek forms cutting through space with predatory grace. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked. "They're not bluffing about the 72 hours, Marcus replied, pulling up classified files on his tablet. "But there's something else. The advanced teams have already begun landing operations on 17 colonies. They're not waiting for a surrender." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. "Show me." The footage was grainy, taken by hidden security cameras on New Harmony, one of humanity's most peaceful agricultural colonies. Zephyrian shock troops, 7 feet tall and covered in biomechanical armor, moved through residential districts with ruthless efficiency. Humans were herded into groups, young adults to one side, children to another, elderly to a third group that was being loaded onto what everyone knew were one-way transports. "They're not even pretending to honor their own terms," Sarah muttered. "It gets worse," Marcus said, switching to another feed. Colony Sigma-7 in the Kepler system refused to cooperate. "Watch this." The screen filled with fire. Plasma cannons from orbit turned the colony's main settlement into a crater of molten glass. 10,000 civilians dead in seconds. The message was clear: submit or burn. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of humanity's future pressing down on her shoulders. When she opened them again, her expression had changed. The diplomatic facade was gone, replaced by something harder, more dangerous. "Marcus, tell me about Project Phoenix." Dr. Webb's expression became carefully neutral. "I'm not sure what you mean, Admiral." "Don't play games with me, Doctor. I know about the hidden facilities on Europa and Ceres. I know about the research teams that officially don't exist. I know we've been reverse engineering alien technology for the past 15 years, ever since the first contact went sideways. She leaned forward. What I need to know is whether we're ready. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the enemy fleet. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. The Phoenix project has been operational for 8 months. We have 67 hidden installations across the solar system, including 17 weapons platforms, disguised as mining stations. The stealth technology works. They can't see us coming. Weapons capabilities. Quantum disruption torpedoes that can punch through their energy shields. Plasma cannons reverse engineered from their own technology, but improved with human innovation. And the AI warfare systems. He paused. Sarah, we didn't just copy their technology. We made it better. Admiral Chen felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. What about the colonies? Can we reach them? We've had resistance cells in place for 3 years. Every colony, every mining station, every transport hub. They're all connected through quantum entanglement communicators that the aliens can't detect or jam. Marcus pulled up a star map dotted with green lights. One signal from us, and every human settlement in the galaxy becomes a weapons platform. Sarah stared at the map, seeing not just the locations but the faces of the people living there. Families who had trusted Earth's government to protect them. Children who were about to be torn from their parents. Workers who would be ground down in alien mines until they died. How long until we can be ready for a coordinated strike? 18 hours. But Sarah, once we do this, there's no going back. They outnumber us 50-1. If we fail, humanity dies anyway. At least this way, we die fighting. She activated her command console. Begin Phase 1 implementation. All Phoenix assets to readiness condition. Across the solar system, hidden facilities came alive. On Europa, beneath the ice sheets, weapons platforms rotated toward concealed launch positions. In the asteroid belt, mining ships shed their outer hulls to reveal sleek warships equipped with experimental technology. On Mars, underground factories increased production of quantum torpedoes that would either free humanity or announce its final stand. The Zephyrian Fleet Admiral, Corvin Thole, watched his screens with the boredom of someone who had conquered dozens of worlds. Humans were proving to be slightly more numerous than expected, but their technology was laughably primitive. His energy shields could withstand anything they possessed, and his weapons could sterilize entire continents. Status report. He commanded from his throne-like command chair. All colonies are responding to occupation protocols, his aide reported. Some minor resistance on the outer settlements, but nothing our shock troops can't handle. The humans appear to be preparing some kind of response from their home system, but our sensors detect only standard defensive measures. Corvin dismissed this with a wave of his clawed hand. Double the patrols around their primary world, but maintain the timeline. I want the first transport ships loaded and departing within 48 hours. The sooner we break their spirits, the easier the integration process becomes. What Corvin didn't know was that human sensors had been watching his fleet for weeks, mapping every ship, every weapon, every weakness. Dr. Webb's teams had identified critical flaws in Zephyrian shield harmonics. They had discovered that the aliens' energy weapons created a brief vulnerability window during firing cycles. Most importantly, they had learned that the consortium's greatest strength, their interconnected command network, could become their greatest weakness if someone managed to hack it. On Luna Station, Admiral Chen stood before a holographic display showing the positions of every human asset in the galaxy. Green dots represented loyal colonies, red dots showed occupied territories, and blue dots marked Phoenix weapons platforms. The pattern looked like a three-dimensional spider web spanning dozens of light years. Admiral, Lieutenant Torres called out, "We're receiving a priority transmission from Colony Sigma-7. Sarah frowned. Sigma-7 was destroyed 6 hours ago. Yes, ma'am. But this signal is coming from the underground shelters. Apparently, some survivors made it to the emergency bunkers before the orbital bombardment. The main screen flickered to life, showing a burned and bloodied woman in torn colonial clothing. Behind her, Sarah could see the faces of perhaps 50 survivors, including several children with wide, terrified eyes. "This is Governor Patricia Walsh of Colony Sigma 7, the woman said, her voice hoarse from smoke inhalation. "They came without warning. They didn't ask for surrender, didn't give us a chance to comply. They just killed everyone. My daughter was in the school when they hit it. My husband was at the market. They're gone, Admiral. They're all gone." The transmission cut out, leaving the command center in absolute silence. Sarah stared at the blank screen, feeling something cold and final settle in her heart. The time for diplomacy, for hoping the aliens might show mercy, was over. She activated the fleet-wide communication system, her voice reaching every human ship station and hidden facility across known space. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen, speaking for Earth and all her children scattered among the stars. They came to our worlds with promises of integration and citizenship. They spoke of joining the galactic community, of sharing in the benefits of advanced civilization. But their true intentions have been revealed in the ashes of Sigma 7 and the chains they've placed on our people." She paused, looking out at the alien fleet that dominated the space around Earth. "For too long, we've been seen as primitives, as nothing more than potential laborers for their empire. They've underestimated us, dismissed us, and now they've murdered our innocence. They think we're weak because we haven't conquered other worlds. They think we're backwards because we still fight among ourselves. They don't understand that our greatest strength has always been our ability to unite when threatened." The transmission reached resistance cells on 47 worlds, hidden weapons platforms in 17 star systems, and sleeper agents who had infiltrated alien installations. Across the galaxy, humans stopped what they were doing and listened to their admiral's words. Today, that unity will burn their fleets to ash. Today, they learn what happens when you mistake human restraint for human weakness. Today, the chains break, and Earth's children come home. She closed the channel and turned to Dr. Webb, who was monitoring readings from Phoenix installations across the galaxy. Every green light was steady, every weapon system was armed, every sleeper agent was in position. "Give the order, Marcus." Dr. Webb entered a complex code into his tablet, then placed his palm on a biometric scanner. Across the galaxy, a single message appeared on hidden screens in facilities that officially didn't exist. "Phoenix rises at dawn. The war for humanity's freedom was about to begin. Ashes of empire." The first shots of the war came not from Earth, but from the outer edges of the Kepler system, where Colony Sigma 7's ruins still smoldered. Hidden beneath the wreckage of the governor's mansion, a Phoenix weapons platform shed its camouflage and rose from the ashes like its mythical namesake. Admiral Corvin Thull received the alert just as he was reviewing casualty reports from the human pacification operations. His aide's voice carried a note of confusion that immediately caught his attention. "Sir, we're detecting an energy signature from the Sigma 7 debris field. It appears to be artificial." Before Corvin could respond, the ruins exploded outward in a shower of metal and stone. What emerged was unlike any human technology the consortium had encountered. The Phoenix platform was sleek, angular, and covered in armor plating that seemed to absorb sensor scans rather than reflect them. Most disturbing of all, it was moving toward his patrol fleet with impossible speed. "All ships, open fire," Corvin commanded. "Destroy that device immediately." The response was immediate. 6 Saphirian cruisers turned their plasma cannons toward the approaching platform and fired in perfect synchronization. The energy beams that had obliterated Sigma 7's surface struck the Phoenix platform's shields and simply dispersed. The destructive energy was absorbed, redirected, and somehow amplified before being fired back at the alien ships. 3 cruisers died in the return volley, their hulls splitting open like overripe fruit. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but the Phoenix platform's quantum torpedoes were already in the water. The exotic weapons phased through the Zephyrian energy shields as if they didn't exist, then detonated inside the ship's hulls. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on 47 worlds. Mining stations revealed themselves as weapons platforms. Agricultural ships shed their outer hulls to expose military-grade armor and cannons. Transport vessels that had been carrying refugees opened their cargo bays to release swarms of combat drones. On the moon of Io, a consortium garrison found itself under attack from what they had thought was a human research station. The base's geothermal taps were actually quantum energy collectors, and its communication array was a targeting system for orbital strikes. Within minutes, the alien occupation force was reduced to scattered debris floating in Jupiter's radiation field. Dr. Marcus Webb monitored the coordinated assault from his command bunker on Europa, watching as green lights blinked across his tactical display. Each light represented a successful Phoenix activation, another hidden asset revealing itself to strike at the consortium forces. Status report, he called to his team of technicians. Phoenix 7 through 19 are fully operational, Lieutenant Commander Park replied from her station. We're seeing 93% effectiveness on the shield penetration systems. The aliens' energy barriers are useless against our quantum torpedoes. What about the stealth networks? Still undetected. They haven't figured out how we're coordinating across such distances. The quantum entanglement communicators are working perfectly. Marcus nodded, but his expression remained grim. They were winning the first phase, but the real test was yet to come. The consortium had brought their main battle fleets to Earth's doorstep, and those ships carried weapons capable of cracking planets. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Phoenix command ship, humanity's first true warship built entirely from reverse-engineered alien technology. The vessel had been constructed in secret over the past 5 years, using materials mined from asteroids and technology stolen from a dozen different consortium species. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, we're reading massive energy buildup from the Zephyrian flagship. They're preparing to fire their planet-killer weapon at Earth. Sarah's hands gripped the arms of her command chair. Through the view screen, she could see the massive alien dreadnought, its hull bristling with weapons that could turn Earth's surface into molten slag. But she could also see something the aliens couldn't. 17 Phoenix platforms rising from concealment in the asteroid belt, their sleek forms invisible to consortium sensors. Signal the fleet, she ordered. All units, execute Phoenix Protocol 7. Target the flagship's main reactor. What happened next would be remembered as the moment humanity announced itself as a galactic power. The 17 Phoenix platforms fired simultaneously, their quantum torpedoes converging on the Zephyrian flagship from multiple angles. But instead of exploding on impact, the torpedoes phased through the ship's hull and detonated inside its reactor core. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface. The flagship, a vessel that had served as Corvin Thol's mobile throne for over 2 centuries, came apart in a sphere of white-hot plasma. The shockwave disabled half the consortium fleet and sent the remainder scrambling for defensive positions. Admiral Corvin Thol died without understanding what had killed him. His last thought was confusion at how primitive humans had developed technology that surpassed his own civilization's greatest achievements. But the victory at Earth was only the beginning. Dr. Webb's resistance networks had been planning this moment for years, and they struck at consortium forces across the galaxy with surgical precision. Supply convoys found themselves under attack by civilian transports. Communication relays were sabotaged by maintenance workers who had been human agents all along. Command centers discovered that their own security systems had been compromised years earlier. On the consortium capital world of Zentorid Prime, High Chancellor Vex received reports of disasters from across his empire. Humanity, the species he had dismissed as primitive laborers, was systematically dismantling 2,000 years of consortium dominance. How is this possible? He demanded of his military advisors. Our intelligence indicated they possessed only crude chemical rockets and ballistic weapons. General Cross, the consortium's most experienced military commander, studied the tactical displays with growing horror. They've been preparing for this war for years, possibly decades. Every human colony, every mining operation, every transport ship was part of an elaborate deception. They made us believe they were defenseless while building a military network that spans the entire galaxy. The truth was even more remarkable than General Cross realized. Humanity's greatest advantage had never been their technology, but their ability to think in ways that other species couldn't imagine. While the consortium focused on building bigger ships and more powerful weapons, humans had been developing tactics based on deception, coordination, and turning their enemies' strengths into weaknesses. The quantum torpedoes that were devastating consortium fleets had been developed by studying alien energy shields and finding ways to phase through them. The stealth technology came from observing how consortium sensors worked and designing ships that were invisible to those specific detection methods. Even the Phoenix platforms themselves were based on a fundamentally human concept, hiding in plain sight until the moment of attack. Admiral Sarah Chen led the final assault on Centauri Prime personally, commanding a fleet of 30 Phoenix warships that had emerged from hiding throughout the galaxy. The battle was unlike anything in recorded galactic history, not because of its scale, but because of its one-sided nature. The consortium's home fleet, considered invincible for over a millennium, lasted exactly 17 minutes against human weapons designed specifically to counter their defenses. Quantum torpedoes phased through energy shields, plasma cannons overloaded alien power systems, and AI warfare. Viruses turned the consortium's own ships against each other. High Chancellor Vex found himself facing a holographic projection of Admiral Chen as his flagship burned around him. The human woman's expression was not triumphant or cruel, but coldly professional. "Surrender your forces immediately," she said without preamble. "Release all human prisoners and withdraw from every world you've occupied. These are not negotiation terms. They are the conditions for your species' continued existence." Vex, who had never spoken to a human before this moment, stared at the image with something approaching awe. "How?" he whispered. "How did you hide this from us?" Sarah's expression softened slightly. "You made the same mistake that every bully makes, Chancellor. You assumed that because we didn't fight you immediately, we couldn't fight you at all. You saw our restraint and mistook it for weakness. You saw our cooperation with each other and assumed we would cooperate with you." She leaned forward, and her voice carried the weight of every human who had suffered under consortium rule. "But the truth is, we've been watching you for decades, learning your weaknesses, studying your technology, preparing for the day when you finally pushed us too far. You thought you were conquering a primitive species. What you actually did was wake up something that's been sleeping since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there." The surrender came within hours. Across the galaxy, consortium forces laid down their weapons and began the long process of withdrawal from human territories. The Phoenix platforms, their work complete, transmitted a single message to every inhabited system within 100 light-years of Earth. The message was simple, direct, and impossible to misunderstand. Humanity is no longer accepting applications for conquest. Any species wishing to coexist peacefully with human colonies should submit diplomatic credentials through proper channels. Any species considering aggressive action should remember what happened to the consortium. Within a year, 17 different alien civilizations had requested formal treaties with Earth. Within 5 years, human technology was being traded throughout the galaxy, not as the products of slave labor, but as innovations from a species that had earned its place among the stars through blood and fire. Admiral Sarah Chen retired to a small farm on New Harmony, the colony that had been rebuilt from the ashes of consortium occupation. She spent her days tending to crops that fed both human and alien settlers, living proof that Earth's children could create as magnificently as they could destroy. Dr. Marcus Webb continued his research, but now his work focused on healing rather than weapons. The quantum technology that had once phased through alien shields was repurposed to develop medical treatments that could cure diseases affecting dozens of species. The AI systems that had once turned enemy fleets against themselves became the foundation for translation protocols that allowed true communication between civilizations. But perhaps the most important legacy of the Phoenix War was the message it sent to the galaxy. Humanity had proven that restraint was not weakness, that patience was not surrender, and that the species capable of the greatest kindness could also deliver the most terrible justice. The stars, which had once seemed so vast and threatening, now held infinite possibilities for Earth's children. And somewhere in the depths of space, hidden in places that looked innocent and peaceful, the Phoenix platforms waited in silence, a reminder to the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to prepare for the unimaginable. They had called humans slaves. Instead, they had awakened sleeping dragons who turned their armies to ash and their empire to dust. The lesson echoed through the cosmos. Never underestimate a species that has learned to hope, to dream, and to fight for both.